So we've just done our relevant investigative research about artists that use chiaroscuro style in their portraiture work. In your Nat 5 you need to show that you followed a single line of development. So our practical work here is going to have to reflect what we've learned in the research. So another thing that you're marked in your Nat 5 is your use of range of different materials. So you might have done some drawings from the investigative research, but you're now going to have a go at doing a monoprint from your investigative research, from what you've learned in it. So we know that chiaroscuro uses really strong areas of light and dark, which is why I've chosen to do a monoprint, because you'll get really high contrast between light and dark areas. The first thing you are going to need to do in your monoprint is roll out some printing ink onto a Perspex sheet. Now I'll let you do that first. You'll only need a pea-sized amount of ink, and then you'll roll it out using a brayer. You roll it onto a Perspex sheet using a brayer. Don't put too much ink on there because it's really hard to take the ink away. It's better to have a small amount and add more. I had to do this with a rolling pin, so I'm not going to show you how I did that because it was really difficult. I'll give you a few minutes to go away and roll your ink out. Now you've got your ink rolled out onto your Perspex sheet, you can start doing your monoprint. So in a previous lesson, you should have taken a photo of yourself or someone else thinking about this chiaroscuro style. And we've printed those out with very high contrast between the light and dark areas. So you're going to use that image to help do your monoprint portrait. So we need to imagine that we have our single light source coming from over here, and you're taking away the dark areas to reveal the light, which is a very different way than you're probably used to, because you're probably used to adding dark areas, not taking them away. So don't go ahead and just draw an oval shape. Really think about the different shapes that you're seeing on your portrait. So I'm going to start out by taking away the dark areas from her forehead, because that's where we've got a very light area in this photo. And I'm just using a rag. I put a tiny bit of water on my rag to help remove the ink. So you're seeing that's leaving quite a clean light area on her forehead. I keep looking back at my image. There we go. Just rubbing it away, it's coming away quite nicely. Look back at my image. She's got quite a thick, dark eyebrow. Now for the more detailed areas, I've just put a tiny bit of cloth onto an old paintbrush, onto the end of an old paintbrush, to help me draw in, or not draw, but create the movement of drawing that eyebrow. So you might see that it's getting a bit more smudged as we add more water. That's quite nice because you can create a crosshatch technique. So I'm now looking back at my image, and I'm going to try and show some texture for her eyelashes, try and create the whites of her eyes but leave her pupil and iris dark to really create that appearance of an eye. And under her eye she's got a little dark area where her eye socket sits. And I think that's quite a nice illusion of the eye there. Again, thinking about that single light source. This part of her face is lit up as well, so this cheekbone has been lit up by that light. So just remove the ink from that area. Keep looking back at your image. And then her chin is mostly lit up on the bit that sticks out. So you want to take most of the ink away from here. So I'm just using wet, and then I take my dry cloth, and that removes that ink. And then with the wet bit, you'll take away less ink to show that that part of the chin is coming towards the viewer. Creating tones there. You can keep going back in, removing ink and adding ink until you get that nice appearance of that volume and form, which is such a feature in chiaroscuro portraiture. So now I'm just going to try and create the shape of her lips, thinking about that Cupid's bow. Might add a bit of movement into my cloth work. And this side of her face, because it's not the side that's lit by that light source, is going to be slightly darker. So we're going to just remove less ink on this side. So you might want to just use a bit of a drier cloth. So I'm using a drier part of my cloth here. You see that's much darker than the other side. How's this nose working? I'm just going to think about how I'm going to show this nose. The nose is quite a hard one to draw at the best of times. So I'm just going to create the shape of that nose. She's got quite a high cheekbone. A bit of water, I need just to take a bit more away from her forehead. Use a drier cloth. See how I keep switching my cloth over? I'm just using a bit of a drier cloth when I need less ink removed from the page. Just dabbing that ink as well. I'm going to go back in with my pointed stick that I've made with my paintbrush and start making marks around those eyebrows and the eye. Just start showing the form of her eye just on this side. Now that side's a lot darker than the other side. Remember to show that form like they would in the Chiaroscuro paintings. And just keep looking back if there's anything you want to take more ink away from to show the lighter areas. Quite happy with this side, might add a tiny bit of light there because when it prints you'll really need to put the pressure on to show that darker area. And just to finish off with, so she's not a floating head, I am going to take some ink away to show her neck. I need it to be a little bit wetter than that. Chin's got a bit too wet. Okay, now I'm happy. I think I'm going to have a go at printing that and see how it turns out. Now I'm ready to print, I'm just going to pull it off the wall. And you'd normally put this through a printing press, which I don't have at home, so I'm going to use my rolling pin again, and I'll probably need to get myself a new rolling pin after this. So you just pop your Perspex sheet down and put your piece of paper over the top of your Perspex sheet. And then you're going to have to start rolling now. When you're pulling it through a printing press, it's going to be a lot easier, but I'm really going to have to put some elbow grease into this to make sure that it prints out with enough pressure. Okay, mono printing is really unpredictable, so this is quite an exciting part to just see what it has turned out like. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think the eyes, I'll show you, I'll come a bit closer to the camera. So, as you can see, this is the effect that it's created. So here, in Nat 5, you're going to need to evaluate and justify your decisions. So my evaluation for this piece of work is there are some variations between the light and dark areas, some nice variations here to create the effect of the 3D form. But on this side, it's quite high contrast, and I don't really think that I've effectively created a 3D eye here. So I might go back and add some cross-hatching to the monoprint to see if I can create more 3D effect here. But in terms of Chiaroscuro style, I think that we have responded well to that, and I think it has shown that single line of development that you'll need to show through your portfolio. I also think there's quite a lot of mystery in this, which is very Chiaroscuro style, is to have that mystery within your portrait. I think because of the abstract features, that's helped as well. So thank you very much for listening to that demo. I'd now like you to have a go at doing it yourself. I'll circulate the class and I can talk to you about the techniques, and I can also talk to you about the artists that you've looked at and how you're representing your understanding within your practical pieces of work. So well done for all your hard work this lesson. I've really enjoyed doing the practical, and I've also enjoyed applying my understanding of Chiaroscuro to my practical work. Hopefully you've managed to do that as well, and that you have something that you can put into your expressive portfolio. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all soon.